It is always said on the show that Barnum is a marketing firm that sells financial products and services. Marketing is the number one most important thing to learn and utilize in this business if you want to succeed. And Barnum has some of the best people and tools to help advisors in the business. Today, we're looking back at Elizabeth Hiza, Paul Tyler, and Ian Kurzay's thoughts on the topic on this episode of Paul Blanco's Small Steps, Big Wins. Barnum Financial Group's Chief Marketing Officer, Elizabeth Hiza.
So I interviewed, I got the job. I remember I interviewed you, or you interviewed me.
Maybe.
Yes. And I got the job, just started in that role. And I think I was there 2 years before your marketing director left. You asked me if I wanted to take over and build something big. And of course I did. And we started to build out the marketing team together. And at that time, my job was to help our advisors get in front of more people at a favorable basis. Back then, traditional marketing was traditional marketing. So we were still making brochures. We were doing mailings. We were making postcards. We were doing bios. That's pretty much what the job was. And we grew fast, as you do, Paul. You let me pull a trigger and we started hiring people and building the department. And that was really great.
One of the things that Elizabeth brought up was helping advisors get in front of clients. And I think it was really important that you said that because in like the late 90s, I kind of came out with in the industry saying a marketing firm that does financial planning. And for many people out there, we figured out at Barnum that if you take smart, articulate advisors and get them in front of clients, good stuff will happen. The other thing we figured out was that financial planning was really the future of our industry. And that's why we said that, because once it's really hard to get in front of a client, but when you're there, you have to take all the, you have to help the client with all their thing and build a wall around them.
Absolutely.
Why don't you just give me kind of the makeup of your department and, kind of what you guys are doing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that time that I was with you, marketing really, really changed. And, when I was your chief of staff, I never let go of my marketing instincts, of my passion for marketing. That was always there in me and in the work that I was doing with you. But marketing obviously really changed dramatically in those 11 years. And I always kept tabs on it. So the first thing I knew that we needed to do in marketing at Barnum is marketing became a very specialized, you needed specialized roles. So you can't really have a marketing generalist anymore. In the digital marketing space, there's so many specialty skill sets that need to come together to put any type of asset out there. And by asset, I'm talking about an email, a social media post, a video, a social media reel, whatever it is. A lot of people have to come together to make that happen.
Which is interesting because there's buzzwords around our world all the time. And, going digital was a buzzword, but what you just said really makes a lot of sense. And if you're listening and you're in a marketing professional, you're running a firm, you have to really take what Elizabeth said, as Bible here in the sense that there's probably 4 different people that make up a digital marketing organization, which is very different than someone might think.
Oh, 100%. 100%. If you're not in the space, you never, and it's just human nature. So I don't want to seem negative, but you never give credit to the work that goes into any one asset. And a lot of people's thoughts and creativity go into every marketing piece that we put out there, that any marketer puts out there. A lot of thought, creativity, and probably more time than anybody will give credit to.
Yeah, which is true, I guess, to the average person
to the average person.
You.
Exactly. So I knew immediately that I could not have a team of marketing generalists, which is what we had before. So we needed to go specialty. So I needed to hire people who were experts in their craft. And when I say craft, I mean graphic designer, writer, a content manager, an email strategist, right? Everybody has a very specific role. And I wanted everybody on the team to wake up every day and say to themselves, how am I going to get better in this specific role so I could deliver a better product to the advisors and to the clients of Barnum Financial Group?
That's great.
So I went out, I found those wonderful people. We brought them in, and that's the team we have today. So we have a team of 9 total today.
Wow. And that's counting you or not?
That is counting me.
So 9 total. Great. And what's amazing is I think about this business, and I grew up as an athlete, and athletics really changed to a specialty world. And, you know, I think about Barnum, and we've tried to do that in every discipline we have, but marketing was probably the last part to follow that.
Yep.
And I think we had to do that because the world changed so rapidly. And I really appreciate that. And it's really great to understand what they do. So if you think about it, you have this team, you have a bunch of different advisors to serve. And that's probably the fun part, but also the challenging part, right? Because sometimes people don't understand what marketing truly means.
Yes.
Well, let's start with someone brand new coming out, you know, coming into the industry. You could be a career changer or a kid off the college campus.
Yes.
What does your team do for them, and how does that all work?
Yes. Great question. I remember back in my first stint in marketing, we had what was called the marketing musts. Do you remember them?
Yep, I do.
Do you remember what they were? If I put you on the spot?
Yeah, I think you had to do a grand opening. You had to send something to your project.
You got it. One more.
And you had to load your names into like a CRM or Excel.
Very close. It was the bio. So we did we did a bio. We sent the letter. It was a card we sent out. And then you did your grand opening. So those were the 3 marketing musts going back 20 years. But they were marketing musts. And thank goodness I had the support of you and all the other sales managers to make sure every new advisor did those musts. And they did. And when they did them, it worked. So fast forward 20 years, we still have those same marketing musts for a new advisor, but obviously they've changed. So we still have a digital copy of a bio, right? You need people to know who you are, what you do, why you do it, your credentials, and a little bit about yourself. Then, of course, we have to look at your social media profiles. Make sure your social media profiles tell the story that you want them to tell. And then we will work again to make sure that you're getting any of your market names into our email database or into our Salesforce CRM system. So those are the 3 things we're going to do right off the bat. And that's after, you know, business cards, stationery, kind of all that stuff.
Sure.
But headshots, all that housekeeping stuff. But once we get into the marketing, we want to make sure those things are up and running immediately.
What's really amazing, though, is someone is assisting them through all that process.
Absolutely.
You know, even though we tell them you're coming into an entrepreneurial industry, we're saying be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And marketing is leading the charge on that.
100%. And the biggest struggle in marketing is it's so subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. And you could go in 1,000 different directions. So as a new person, and don't forget, you know, usually new advisors are coming off of a college campus or close to coming off of a college campus in a very regimented schedule. So to come into this business where you are an entrepreneur, so you are responsible for what you do in the 24 hours of your day, there's no schedule for you. You could go off in 1,000 different directions and end up being unproductive. So the best thing that marketing offers is structure. It's still the musts. Like, no, you're not going to worry about doing Google ads right now. Right now, I need you to get A, B, and C done.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Because there's an order for how you should market yourself and how you should put yourself out there. And when you kind of zigzag all over the place, you're going to get very zigzagged results.
Yeah,
you're not going to get
you're
not going to get the results you're looking for. So we act as that partner, but also a little bit of an accountability partner to say, nope, get back on the path. Nope, that's not what we're doing right now. Nope, I need you to stay here with me.
Well, it's interesting. As an entrepreneur, you have to be coachable. So if they're coachable, they'll get it done and they'll see the fruits of their labor and the labor of the team. So
we want to get them set up digitally. Then we want to get them emailing. Okay. And we can get into email marketing. My gosh, we can have a whole show on email marketing, but you know, that's a huge passion of mine. But we want to get them automating communications. We want to get them comfortable reaching out via email. We want to get them comfortable on the phones, really introducing themselves in this new identity that they have, which could be scary.
Yeah.
It could be intimidating. If your parents' friends know you as little Paulie, and now you're coming in as Paul Blanco, financial advisor, or Paul Blanco, CFP, that it could be hard to change that identity.
Yeah.
So we want to help do that.
To give some context to this, when you talked about the beginning, the team having 9 people and then having the specialties, you truly have one-stop shop for our advisors, and the depth. When I look around the industry and a lot of study groups I have, most firms have 1 or 2 people.
Yes.
So it's almost impossible for them to scale this.
100%.
And I think that's a big deal for the FAs.
It's you. And I say this with respect because I was once a department of 1.
Yep.
It is very difficult to market today. If you're just 1 or 2 people, you just can't do it. There's just too much to do, too much to know, too many skill sets that you're going to need to have. You're going to, if you're in that position, you're going to have to get outside support to help you there. And I say those 9, and I should have corrected you before. In addition to the 9 we have a slew of wonderful freelance help, wonderful consultants, wonderful people who come to our aid when we need them for very specific things. But we have a pretty big team in addition to those 9 folks.
Sure. So you just take the specialist thing to an umpteenth level, and maybe you don't need them enough on a day-to-day, but you need them for certain things you're doing.
Exactly. So there has been, knock on wood, you can hear me, there has never been a request, a need that our team has not been able to fulfill, because we have every digital marketing specialty covered in one way or another.
And as I sit here as this visionary, I'm thinking to myself, I go through those first 2 steps. Now I'm using the agency, but they should be customers for life, because it's just going to build on. And as the world changed, like it did 11 years ago, you're going to continue to add these services. So they'll keep going upwards 100%. With you. And the other thing that's interesting for the listeners here is, and I'm not poo-pooing an outside agency at all here, but I do know this is a highly regulated industry. And for you to be able to do this for advisors and know the back end, it probably makes things go way smoother versus you have this creative team that does all this great work and then it gets stuck on the back end. And as it's repeatable, they're getting the benefit of seeing it, the repeating, the machine just building and building and building. Am I correct in saying that?
You are 100% correct. There are advisors. Now, I've used marketing agencies when I've needed them throughout my career with you, and they are wonderful, but they do put a lot of work back on the customer, because you still have to approve everything. You still have to give creative direction, right? They're not you. They're not in this space. And then 2, we are regulated. So we do have compliance. So you do have to heavily direct any agency you hire to work within the compliance standards that we all have to live by. When working with the agency here at Barnum, we take care of all of that. We know all of that. So you don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, which is amazing.
It's amazing. So there's 3 ways advisors can work with the agency. One way is we have subscription packages. So that's kind of like a Netflix, right? You pay a certain amount a month and you get content to choose from, whether that's social content, whether that's blogs, whether that's videos, you get to pick whatever you want to put out there. Our next model is project work. So a project is anything that has a start and a finish. It could be a 3-minute video. It could be building you a website. It could be a welcome package. It could be a client service model. Whatever it is, we'll determine what the beginning is and what the end is, and then we'll go ahead and execute for you. And then the third way advisors work with us is through a retainer model, where they are truly hiring us to be their marketing arm. And we will do whatever work they want us to do on behalf of themselves and on behalf of their business.
Head of Enterprise Marketing and Marketing Innovation with Zinnia, Paul Tyler.
Agents are always, the biggest problem we have, the agents have is, but I want to find that customer. Hasn't changed. I could kind of go through a number of kind of interesting problems. There's a reason why, we never saw insurance agents have billboards, along I-95. It doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a reason why, for the same reason, doing Facebook ads and Google ads just won't work out financially. So it's interesting. You say some things stay the same, some things don't change, but things that do change is, how are you going to find your customer today? I think increasingly it's happening online, right? It used to be I'd walk down the street, knock on a door. A lot of agents are still doing this today. But more and more, I think the customer creation, the prospect creation is going to happen online. And the interaction is going to happen more progressively in an online environment. Still be a person, but well, if you're my client, how did I find you originally? I bet I met with you once, but I bet I may not have met with you in person the rest of the time we've got in a relationship. So I think there's fundamentals of this business aren't going to change, but I think the how we find them, how we return, the expectations are going to change dramatically. I think fintech is going to be a huge part of this.
Yeah, it's interesting as you're speaking. I'm thinking, our model here is digitally enabled, advisor assisted. And,
yes.
But what I'm still puzzled by is so many companies are coming out with these fintech models to try to gain customers. And how's that working? Is it working? And I think back to, when I first started, mail was 5% of the industry. People did business through mail. And I feel like that digital experience is still like 5% of the industry now. So do you have more color on that for me?
Yeah, I think, as you know, home offices are great in coming up with solutions they think are solving problems you have.
Yeah,
right. I've been guilty of this. I've got this great solution. Oh, is it really solving a problem?
Yeah.
So I think, you still get that. I think all the time where you have people who are not connected with the field, haven't sold a product, don't understand how to sell this product, will invent things that probably cost a lot, may have worked a little bit, but probably aren't delivering the results that you're seeing today. And listen, a lot of companies, I think, that have tried to go digital all the way are saying, okay, where's the ROI coming from?
Yeah.
So our personal experience has been, there are people out there. There are people who want to buy direct from a company, and we've enabled that opportunity. Sometimes they, met with an advisor, liked the product, came into our website, looked at this thing, but they didn't like the advisor, and they'll come in and call us. Now that probably happens 1% of the time. And so we've got the capability where we've got somebody who can come in, artfully kind of figure out, well, who are they? Who are they talking to? We'll help them out. We'll give the commission to the agent, so they're not going to lose if we figure out who this person was.
Yep.
Could we survive on that, Paul? I'd be kind of hungry at this point if I had to do this as a standalone business.
Correct.
Now, that said, I'm seeing a lot of agencies putting their agency out in person, building their brand, bringing the people in for maybe one meeting, and then building a business around this. But it's very different, I think, if you've got, boots on the ground or boots virtually on ground. I think this is a model that I think people are going to crack this code. Okay. But it's not going to be I don't think the carriers are going to be doing it. It's going to be people like you.
Yeah. You're going to need some entrepreneurs. And I think that's one of the interesting things. And, I'll come back to marketing in a second, but when you think about what I found is advisors come in as advisors. If they can make the jump to a business owner and then an entrepreneur, that's how they truly grow. And what you're talking about is firms doing that. And I think that's one of the challenges the industry is facing. So when you don't have the distribution model like that, then you try to figure other ways because the need's so great, but then you try to figure out other ways to distribute our products and grow the business, So it's interesting. But let's go back to something. I mean, from the onset of your career, you've always had a marketing mind. And obviously, when you're in the fintech space, it's all about marketing to distribute more products and more efficiently. But what do you see is working, or what do you see some of the challenges are, I should say, in marketing in the financial sector?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in marketing this sector is navigating regulations.
Okay.
Now, challenge and opportunity, right? Regs are meant to not misrepresent what we're selling. I have this conversation with all people all the time. I'm sure you do with reporters. Well, what's the ROI on the annuity? Aren't those fees really high? My answer to them is, what was your ROI in your homeowner's insurance? I hope it was 0 this year. I hope your house didn't burn down.
Yes.
Right. So misrepresentation is a big issue we have to fight in this business. all the time. I think making sure people understand what they actually purchased, big deal. You bought a life insurance policy, not a long-term care policy, or right. We've all dealt with this. I talked to one startup once selling an annuity, and this was a couple of years ago, Paul. A lot of financial backing. I saw their page. They were trying to sell multi-year guaranteed annuities. For listeners who may not know what they are, they're kind of like bank CDs, but they're insurance products. But the need, it sort of hits the same need. Guaranteed interest rate for a specific point in time. One of the easiest products to explain, I think, or that's at least the common perception. They didn't have annuity, Paul, anywhere on their website or their ads. I said, you can't legally do this.
You're misrepresenting. Yep.
And he said, but people won't click on it. I said, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. So I think one challenge is the regulation, but it's also the challenge is how do you accurately tell our product what our product needs are, which we solve very complicated needs, but how do you say that in, what does Google allow you to do on ads? You've got maybe 50 characters max, and you've got to meet the regs, and you've got to create explain your product in a few seconds that can pull somebody in on a financially sound basis. This is hard.
Yeah. It's interesting as I'm sitting here listening. I don't know if you remember this, but in 1999, I kind of coined the phrase in the industry as a marketing firm that does financial planning, right? Because what you're saying is exactly the same problem we had in the 90s was if you can't get a smart, articulate advisor in front of clients, then the rest doesn't happen.
Barnum Financial Group's Director of Financial Marketing, Ian Kurzay.
Do you teach advisors that every year you should do a marketing plan and there's a journey? And then what does that look like? And what are some of the tactics and strategies that you are teaching?
Yeah. I mean, it really starts with helping them understand all of the different facets of marketing, right? There's inbound marketing, outbound marketing, which is essentially lead generation versus nurturing their current client list. Every advisor is a little different. When I sit down with an advisor, I may sit down with somebody who their main focus is to bring in new people, new leads, new clients. But then I sit with more seasoned advisors that they're not trying to get new people. They're trying to focus on their current book, turn that book into a bigger opportunity, become more referable from their book. And they're not looking for the outside lead. So there's vastly different marketing strategies that are involved based off what those goals are. So when I meet with an advisor, we talk through all of that. What are your goals here? And then we kind of help build a model that will cater to what that goal is.
Do many advisors walk in and say, Ian, I need this? Or is it more of, I'm not really sure what to do. I've been at all these meetings. I hear that I should be doing marketing. I know maybe I should be reaching out to my clients more. Maybe I need my website fixed or my brand. How's that all go?
Yeah, usually, there are some who have a pretty good marketing mindset that have a pretty good idea of what they want to do, why they want to do it. They've thought through the strategy and they come to us to simply help execute. But then there are many, probably the majority, that they're not sure. Maybe they went to a conference and they heard that you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Or maybe they met with their sales leader and they were told, they should be working on certain marketing activities. Or you get the age-old question that I dealt with, in the first 8 years that I was here, in the marketing generalist category where I had my territory. You sit down with the advisor and their question is, what are the new tactics? What are the new strategies? What are other advisors doing that's working? Which is just a pointless question because everybody's business is different. There could be two advisors that have the same target market, that's selling the same services. One has an established brand and one maybe doesn't yet. Maybe they're still starting out. Maybe they're still building. That one marketing tactic, outbound marketing tactic to get leads or to get business could work very well for advisor number one with that established brand, and then not work at all for advisor two without the brand. So the tactics that are working is such a general question. There needs to be a deeper conversation about, all right, where are we? Where do we need to start? And then what can we look at to get your business off the ground and get this production going?
When you think of some of the things that are going on today, we keep hearing this word about it's more digital. Mm-hmm. Can you just explain as well as you can to the audience what that means? And why is digital different today than, the old days was not as digital as it is today?
Yeah, essentially it just created numerous more channels for marketing, right? In the old days, it was mailers, it was in-person seminars, and maybe some looking through the newspaper, like you always talk about
TV
when you started out,
radio,
right? So that was the olden days. Then, as the digital world expanded, you're talking the birth of social media and the blow up of that over the last decade and a half, 2 decades. You're talking email marketing, which is the master of all marketing right now is email, right? And there's SEO, which is a major piece in today's game of marketing, is that people, like I said, are Googling you. They're looking for you. So you shouldn't have just one result when somebody Googles your name. You should cover the first page in Google. You should be published in articles. You should have websites. You should have social profiles, whatever you can get online, so that when somebody Googles you, there are 7 or 8 hits right at the top of the list, or that you are at the top of the list, right? So that's your SEO optimization there. But in the digital space, there's just so many different channels. So you need to have a strategy to be present and to be available. Again, it all starts with validation and building trust. And then once you can get them into your world, onto your website, onto your email list, so that you can continue drip, that's when you start that trust building process to turn those people into clients over time.
Yeah. And we always taught, like, when you bring on a new client, what you ultimately want them to do is, when they think anything finance, they think you.
They think of you.
And I think it takes a very tactical skill to just keep dripping on it to do that. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.